3, 2, 1, yeah, we ready right now. Got me feeling so free, free, like a cool summer breeze.
Welcome back to the SideQuest Hustle. I'm your host, Shad. This is the podcast where we talk about anime, manga, comics, video games, TV, and more. Please be sure to follow us on all social medias at the SideQuest Hustle and all streaming platforms at the SideQuest Hustle. We also have a Discord that we're trying to get pretty active, so all those links will be down below. Be sure to check us out. This week, I have a special guest joining me. Film director, actor, screenwriter, and now head comic writer at Next Step Comics, Vashmere Valentine. Vashmere, can you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. My name is Vashmere Valentine, and I've worked in the entertainment industry as a film director and screenwriter. I've also now accepted a ring the company Next Step Comics as a writer, and it seems like where I'm going to be for a very long time.
And so you have a list of accolades. You've had a short film that has won over 80 awards. It's nominated 54 more. It was featured in over 170 selections for film festivals. What made you get into the comic space? It seems a little different than directing, but I guess as a storyteller, can you kind of go into the story?
Absolutely. So a lot of the work that I did in entertainment business was usually focused around fantasy, something that I grew up with as a child, mostly because my mom just couldn't tolerate violence. So while other kids were able to watch Rambo or Terminator, I had to watch The Never Ending Story or Scissorhands. So, after a while, I just kind of gravitated towards working on fantasy and sci-fi. And, I've had some lovely work as that film you were describing. That was a children's fantasy. I really felt like that a lot of the work that I wanted to do was kind of being shunned away just because it was fantasy, and a lot of it did have to do with a lot of African Americans. And I really felt like the recognition and the green light for these projects wasn't really taking place. So I decided to go to the source, which is, the comic and anime fans, to be able to show them the type of work that they probably would have never seen.
And so Pepper Piper discovered the TikTok page, and I wasn't sure if it was a comic that was released or anything, but the aesthetics of it, the story that I saw there really caught my attention and attracted me. Pepper Piper herself, the character, was what really stood out, her art style. So are you the artist for that, or do you have an artist that you kind of gave your vision to?
Absolutely. So the master behind the work that you see, his name is PR.Bad, and he definitely has an Instagram, which I make sure that you guys have that available. But he is a genius at his craft. Friendly person. I really feel like that he captivated Pepper, the type of look we were getting, and the type of comic book style that he has, that he's put into this issue, is definitely pays homage from comics of the past. So you'll notice that even the panels aren't necessarily in the standard format. They're kind of all over the place. And that was something that he decided to do because he felt like that there needed to be a music influence, and music is kind of like jazz, rock, and it's kind of like all over the place. Though it's easy to read, you'll just see some things bleeding over into other spaces to kind of keep that rhythm of that music out. So yeah, he really brought something to the table.
Cool. That's pretty cool. It's something unique. Like I said, the art style was what attracted me, and to know that art style is going to continue in the comic, I'm excited to see that. So when is the Pepper Piper Monster Hunter comic launching?
It is launching September 1st this year, 2020.
Cool. I'm excited for that. And if I'm not mistaken, I saw that there was a pre-order, that the pre-order is going to go up here, I believe, August 15th. Give a little information.
Yeah, so if you go to the website, pepperpiper.com, or if you go to pepperpipermonsterhunter.com, on the comics tab, you'll actually be able to sign up to be able to get an early copy of Pepper Piper. So I would definitely encourage you guys to do it, because we do expect it to do quite well based on our fan base. Yeah, pre-orders will be available. Thanks.
I mean, let's dive into the lady herself. Pepper Piper Just looking at her aesthetic, it's different. I mean, she's described as a punkster. She's described as a badass. Can you tell me what your inspiration was with her character?
Yeah, so Cup actually was inspired to me by a couple of different people. One was my nieces, because both my nieces are multicultural. So a lot of the things that they were dealing with at school, and a lot of the choices that they were being forced to make at school, made me want to create a character that I could at least speak for them. Because I was sure that there were more children out there that might have felt that they had to make certain choices that they didn't feel comfortable with. And I wanted to at least have them be able to relate to somebody that could speak for them and to them. The Punkster.Hunter.Bad actually came from a friend of mine that I once knew a long time ago. It was just a total badass chick, man. She was in Iraq. She was in everything you could possibly imagine. And she just really didn't take anything from anyone. She had her own morals that she stood for, and she wouldn't let anyone break them. So Pepper is kind of really geared and engineered around that person.
So something I feel is important. I feel like representation matters. Everybody deserves someone that they can look at and, like you said, think, oh, they're badass. I could be like them.
Mm-hmm.
Can you describe a little bit about the setting for the story? Where does the story take place? Is there a particular time frame?
There is. So the story takes place in the present, where we actually learn a little bit of history about the past. And the past in the story is that 600 years ago, the evil that lurks in the shadows, which would be like vampires, werewolves, and witches, and demons, had finally decided to take the world from man. This started what is known in the story as the Wicked War, or the War of the Wicked, in which man was forced to face all of these demonic creatures. And the demonic creatures actually almost won the war, except there was one person in the front lines that saved everyone, and that person was known as the Pied Piper. And by using a special instrument, the Pied Piper was able to save the world from ultimate death. The story that we have now is the present, 600 years later, where there's a new Pied Piper, and that Pied Piper is supposed to take over the legacy of the Pied Pipers before by protecting the world from this evil threat.
And so where does the story take place?
So the story takes place in New York City, which is kind of like a mecca for all of these different creatures, in which they've all kind of gravitated towards, because New York to them has everything that they need.
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, I could see New York being a place where you could hide in plain sight.
Oh yeah, and at night in some cases. You know, there's definitely a lot of trouble to get into in New York City. I have a hell of a nightlife for those that don't sleep, vampires. And the people don't usually question a lot of things in New York City. I think that's kind of like the status quo. And I think that something like that is really what plays to the favor of these different demonic creatures, because it's easy for them to kind of move around and do what they need to do, but also stay low key at the same time.
So what type of creatures are we talking about here? I mean, is it like monsters, or is it vampires? What kind of creatures are causing trouble for New York and for Pepper?
Well, mostly, believe it or not, it's going to be the witches. The witches in our story is actually the result of vampires, werewolves, and demons. The witches actually are the ones that were able to give this ability to these different entities in order to help them win that war against man. So in our story, the true antagonist is going to be a group of witches who have been around for years and years and years, who definitely don't think that man deserves to be in control of this world. And if you know anything about the Salem witch trials, they have a good reason why they believe that. So, yeah, they feel like they've been prosecuted. They seem like that they feel like that they have been, put through turmoil their whole time, when all they were trying to do was bring something new to the world. And, due to the prosecution that they received for it over the years, they've obviously, become less interested in man than most of them.
So you mentioned that the story takes place in New York. For the listeners in New York, I'm pretty sure they're wondering, what borough does Pepper live?
That's a good question. She actually lives in the Bronx. So I know Brooklyn, may not like that, but yeah, she's from the Bronx. Sorry, guys. Yeah.
Yeah, and I believe you mentioned that Pepper is of mixed origin. So what race is Pepper Piper?
So she is Caucasian and Black. Her mother is Caucasian, and her father is actually Black.
Do they play a big part in the story? Is there a storyline to look out within them?
There actually is. That love story is going to really, how can I best say it without giving way too much information? It plays a lot into the story itself, being as though that one of the things that Next Step Comics wants to do is create a diverse comic book in a way that most people haven't seen. Something that'll make you talk, something that'll give you something to talk about the next day or in podcasts like this. So their relationship has to play a lot in role of what people that have been in those family situations have gone through. People we've interviewed and asked questions to about that family dynamic and also how the world views them. So their story alone is going to be a deep one because there's obviously the negativity that those two faced for even being together. But then it's also a certain negativity towards the fact that Pepper is now, a mixed breed herself. So, the way that people deal with her is also something that, people have a chance to read through and get a chance to see how what we perceive to be one thing can impact someone's life.
And so in reading and doing a little research, Pepper is a teenager.
She is.
And how does her age, as being a teenager, I'm pretty sure she's in high school. Kids in high school, they go through a lot.
They do.
I have a teenager now who's getting ready to take that journey. How does that impact her story?
A lot. One thing that's funny about Pepper is that she's a normal teenager. A lot what we would consider to be normal, but the world itself is not normal. So a lot of the things that she deals with is a lot of the different topics that teenagers deal with today, whether it's being social networking known, if I could use that term, or if it's even dealing with, different types of people that consider themselves to be, to have different pronouns, woke people. She's dealing with all of this while also still being this gift to the world for protecting it. So aside from dealing with the normal nuances of going to high school and trying to fit in and trying to be cool and dating both male and females, she also has to deal with the task of having to save the world. So you really get a chance to just see what this teenager is going through on a daily basis while she's really just trying to, learn the rules of the world and also, making certain decisions towards things that she believes in her heart.
I know you kind of told me about your inspiration for the Pepper Piper character. Are there any comics or stories, manga, anime that influenced your artistry?
Yeah, so if I could say that. I think we did this a couple of days ago, but I'm gonna see if I can remember what we said. I think it's Deadpool and Yu Yu Hakusho had a daughter. That's what I was told. That was one thing that went around the ring. Yeah, I think it's Deadpool and Yu Yu Hakusho had a kid. That would be Pepper.
That's interesting. So,
yeah. So if you're a Yu Yu Hakusho,
if you're saying with Deadpool and Yu Yu Hakusho, so I can imagine one thing, there's probably going to be a lot of fights.
Oh yeah, she's a badass. So that's another thing that plays into it. I think people won't be used to seeing is just like a teenage female that's like, this is my job and it is what it is, and she's been trained her whole life, that witches are bad and witches that yes. And in the story, one of the things that she'll find out in the first issue is that her mother was actually killed by a witch. So there's a deep hatred in her towards witches just off the bat. So she takes that in every battle and fight. Like, it's personal for her. You know what I mean? Like, it's just not like, oh, I got to do this job because I'm the savior. It's like, until I find the one that took my mom from me, y'all all are going to pay. So it'll be she's not the sweet and innocent character that you might be used to. This is a teenager that has, that has a lot of guilt on her and wants revenge. And she is very open about that.
Revenge stories always.
Yeah.
Speaking of characters, side characters play a very important role in a lot of stories, especially fantasy action stories. What can you tell us about the side characters in Pepper Piper Monster?
Well, I think one thing that people are gonna really get a kick out of is that the characters in our stories, they obviously have their own arcs, but they also play a huge role in the full story. Especially with the fact that one of our things is to make sure that we create a space in these comic books for all different types of ethnic groups. So you're definitely going to see someone in that story that you feel represents you. And even if that means something negative, because obviously there are negative people in this world, you still will find yourself in that comic book. You will be able to say, yep, that's something I would say. There's one character in our story that's really heavily religious, and he doesn't like the fact that Pepper does some things, and he's very religious and he's very open about that. And we wanted to make sure that if you were the type of person as that you were represented and you felt like, yeah, that's what I would say. So you'll find out that aside from the characters being diverse in this comic, they also speak for themselves and they have their own voice. We're not trying to tune things down or make them fit into the story. If someone doesn't like something or somebody doesn't like the way Pepper view certain things, then they're going to be open about it. And you're going to get a chance to see what that person says.
Is there a character, without giving away too much, character in particular that you connect with?
Idris. Idris. So Idris is Pepper's mentor throughout the story. He's like a 6'1" African-American male, bald head. Kind of, I want to say kind of like your John Shaft character. But he is probably somebody I connect to because the way that he's seen it all and kind of been through it all, and he feels like there's a responsibility in him to keep this kid protected, but also trying to figure out what the heck she's saying most of the time, because Pepper does use a lot of slang, and just trying to really get her to walk a straight and narrow path that he sees in his mind. So in a lot of ways, he's like your typical military father. And I feel like that's one of the characters I connect to probably the most, because you're always going to have some type of opportunity to see into the mind of different of the main characters in the story and see what they think and hear what they say. And I feel like that a lot of times when Pepper gets in certain situations, you'll hear that fatherly voice from him, and it may sound familiar to you.
With the setting, are there any particular, landmarks or any particular places in New York that people would recognize that you into the story?
Absolutely. So one of the things that we wanted to do with this was kind of relate to, or pay homage, I should say, to a lot of the manga and anime that's out. So one of the things we noticed is how much they frequently actually use locations in Japan. So we wanted to actually use locations in New York. So there'll be several locations in New York that you will see in a comic that you can visit or say, hey, I remember that and I know what that looks like. Whether it be St. Patrick's Cathedral, or whether it be a certain restaurant on, a certain strip or a certain street, you're definitely going to see Pepper either walking past or interacting with things that you would see if you are a New Yorker. And we wanted to be able to do that so that when you're reading the story, you also felt like that it kind of touched you because you knew these places and you felt like it was more relatable to you. When you're
one that immediately comes to mind when you brought that was Jujutsu Kaisen.
Yeah.
The Shibuya incident highlighted Shibuya perfectly, from the train station, the red light district, and so it had people going around taking pictures at these different locations. And so cool. And I feel like with New York, you'll definitely have people doing that. If they're going to be at a certain cathedral, if they're going to be at Central Park, I could definitely see a challenge coming with that, where you put it out there, insert yourself into the stores, type of thing. Pepper was here, see if they can find that location and include themselves in the story.
I like that. And I'm really hoping too, it was funny you mentioned that, because I'm hoping that those cosplayers that want to cosplay Pep will actually do that, because that would be amazing to see them actually on the New York City streets as Pepper. I know that I personally would get a blast from seeing that.
Yeah, that was one of the things that I saw as well with her appearance and her aesthetic. It is this one that people would easily relate to and people would easily be able to cosplay. Was that something that you thought of when thinking of the design for her character?
Absolutely. So a lot of Pep's design actually pays tribute to a lot of comic book characters and a lot of anime characters. So, and I won't give away the anime ones, but I'll be, obviously, you know, I'm excited to be on the show, so I'll give you one. So her physical outfit itself, if you look at the colors, so her pants are black, and then she has her trench hoodie, right, which I believe is gray, and then she also wears a black shirt that has a yellow symbol on it, which is an unhappy smiley face, right? If you're a DC fan, and you think about those colors, that color scheme, yellow on the chest, gray, black, if you pull back from her farther enough, you'll see Batman.
I'm gonna have to find a frontal now.
Yeah. You may not find that's the funny thing. You may not be able to see, like, I don't know if there's any full frontal shots of Pep, but if you look at her outfit when she's standing up, it definitely plays a little homage to just based on the color code to Batman. So there's little things like that about her that we played around with, just so that, you know, subconsciously some things would be more easier to relate to, you know, in your mind, even though you're looking at it, you might not know it just looking at it from, you know, that first shot.
Nice. Yeah, I'm gonna have to go back through and see what I can find. Now that you brought it up, I'm gonna have to go back to the TikToks and the Instagram posts and everything.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool. Because I had her picture pulled up and I had the gray trench coat and the black top, black bottom, but you can't see the chest.
Yeah, and then I'll give you one more. You might get this one real fast. All right, so do you know what color her hair is?
I mean, it almost looks blonde in this photo that I'm looking at.
Okay, and the color of her eyes?
They're green.
Okay. Can you think of an anime character who has gold hair and green eyes?
Oh, so Goku.
Bang.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So
Okay.
there's like small, they're little small, they're really small things, but like I said, if you kind of piece it together as a whole, you can start to look at her. And of course, like Naruto, exactly. There's just very familiar characters that we were fans of, and that we noticed that you guys are fans. So she's a combination of some of the characters that you guys love and we adore. And what we did is just kind of took the best parts of all those characters and mix them into a pot and say, here's Pepper. This is what she's gonna look like.
I always love when people throw Easter eggs into their story, into their characters. I feel like it connects people. And I mean, I know a lot of them are ones that people, like you said, they're small, they're subtle. People may not catch them at first, but then they may hear this interview and then go back, and now they're going to go back and read the entire story.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's another group, Blurred Minds Production. They have a comic called Wake the Dead. And when
I've seen something about that.
Yeah, it's pretty good. It's a supernatural horror comic. And when he was telling me there are little Easter eggs sprinkled all throughout the story that you may have missed. And so I was like, oh man, I just read all 9 or 10 chapters. I'm gonna have to go back and read. And so
just to find them.
Just to find them. I feel like this is one where I'm probably gonna end up doing the same thing, where once the first chapter, first volume and everything is out, I'm gonna read it and I'm like, I need to go back and find all the little Easter eggs.
Yeah, it's definitely gonna be some in there. I'm gonna promise you that. It's gonna be one of those reads that pays off to the reader that reads like that. So yeah, even when you get into issue number 6 or 7, you'll still be able to go back and be like, I remember that.
It's like I said, it's one of my favorite things. So can you tell me a little bit about your team with Next Step Comics? So
absolutely. So we are a team of like-minded individuals. Some of us are punks, Some of us are in the LGBTQ family. Some of us are writers in the industry. Some of us are editors in this industry, in the film industry. And some of us are obviously anime fans, comic book fans. And pretty much what we've done is just come together to be able to produce certain works that we feel like will speak to certain minorities, not only throughout the world, but just minorities in the community, our Black community, especially speaking for like punks and rocksters that are of African-American descent. And really that's our main goal, is to create really great entertainment, but also pay tribute to these different unspoken minority groups that really would love to see a character that was represented by them.
I also saw that there is some Pepper Piper Monster Hunter merch out there. Can you plug that for everybody?
Absolutely. So you guys can definitely head down to pepperpiper.com, pepperpipermonsterhunter.com, where we have a full merch page where you can buy anything from hats to t-shirts, where you can show off your own punkster in you. If you're somebody that rocks out, or if you're somebody that's definitely just into the weird and eerie, then obviously you want to rock your Pepper Piper punkster gear. It's actually called Monster Hunter merch, which is what we call some of the different things that we sell for Pepper Piper. But what it really does is it kind of not only evens out the cost, obviously, for being able to produce a comic like this, but I don't think people may know this or not, but in terms of us being a comic book company, any type of company that sees us moving large tons of merchandise is obviously going to start to wake up and ask us questions. And that's the kind of questions that we want to be able to be asked. So, you know, if you guys are really fans of the comic, it really benefits our company to be able to have merchandise moving. And obviously the second reason is because merchandise is the best advertisement you can get. So if you're out in the streets and you're rocking a Pepper Piper Monster Hunter shirt, someone's going to ask you questions about it. And that's always going to come back to us or the comic. So we wanted to make sure that we had merch available for this comic so that you guys could go out and actually say, hey, this is something I'm about. This is something that I believe in. And, you know, there is merchandise and things that I can buy for it to show my love for it.
I will definitely be placing my order.
I appreciate that.
Can you tell me about a couple of the other projects that you guys at Next Step Comics are working on?
Yeah, so aside from Pepper Piper, which is our flagship series, there are two other comics that you guys will see coming from us, hopefully by 2025. The first one is called Black Rabbit, which is pretty much your 007 meets Lupin III, which stars an African-American male by the name of Ray Valentine, who is the son of a genius guitar player, who finds out years later on that his father's guitar history, which everybody thought was, you know, the Jimi Hendrix of his time, was actually just all false. It was just something that the government created in order to allow him to be a spy. So now Ray is starting to uncover some of the different secrets of his family's past and his father's past by also slowly stepping into his place.
And I kind of see a trend there of music among the projects. Was music a big influence in your art and in coming up with these stories?
Absolutely. It's funny because my music catalog is probably one of the strangest things you'll probably ever listen to. I mean, one minute it could be Method Man, and the next minute it could be like Led Zeppelin. Though for me, music has always played a strong role in different situations that I've been in my life. So within the work that I do and that I want to write, you will always find some theme of music within it, one way or another.
So with that being said, will Pepper Piper have a soundtrack?
Look, man, we actually have received some messages from rock artists that are, you know, females in our community that have said, look, like, if you guys send us stuff, we'll write to it. So I definitely will say yes to that. Yeah. And of course, obviously, if there's a movie, then that's a whole nother different story. You know, there's a couple of artists that we would love to collaborate with to bring something like that to the table, especially since Pep, you know, plays the guitar herself and she has her own band. So yeah.
Yeah, I get her some theme music. She needs that theme music because she's going out there to slay. Gotta
have that theme music.
Cool. So are there any other projects on the horizon for Next Step Comics?
We have one more comic book that should be released in 2026, which is titled Patch, which is literally our Spanish superhero that we feel like that people within the Spanish community will really draw together towards. That will be released in 2026, hopefully 25. But Patch is another superhero story that we're passionate about. That some of the people that we've worked with within that Spanish community are extremely passionate about. They feel like that something like this has been long awaiting, and we hope to bring, as one of our team members says, what was it? It's Black Panther energy to it. So yeah, we're hoping this will be a hit. Yeah,
representation matters. You know,
absolutely.
Like I said earlier, everybody having someone, a hero or a character that they could look up and idolize. I feel like that's definitely important, and for a lot of people of color, for a lot of people of the LGBTQ community, they're missing. And so giving them the opportunity to have that character that they can identify with, I feel like that's definitely important, and it's definitely neat.
I agree.
Going into this comic book space, this manga space, and we see a lot of American production companies really sort of, you know, shifting to more of the Japanese style of production with their comics, with their anime. So like the Suicide Squad, they released the anime in July. I believe there's a Lord of the Ring anime in the works. There's an Elden Ring anime in the works. How has Japanese media influenced your art?
Heavily, especially my writing style. For me, I grew up, you know, learning the properties of screenwriting and storyteller from the American side. So a lot of times I really didn't find, you know, television or movies entertaining, because once you kind of know the screenwriting format, it kind of becomes dull. You realize what's supposed to happen at what time, and a lot of films, you know, they stick to that. So for me personally, you know, watching, you know, whether it was Japanese movies or anime, so was the only thing that I felt like I would still get a surprise from. I remember watching Naruto and just being like, I don't know where this story is going. Like, it's just, I have no idea what's happening, and actually getting the feeling of being surprised. So even when it came to writing Pepper Piper, it was a lot of things that I felt that was natural. And then when I went back and read it, maybe the 6th or 7th time, I was like, this is too easy to read. Like, this is expected, you know? And then when I literally had to refrain from being an American writer and really start to focus on a different style of storytelling. And it was hard for me, because I remember watching anime and literally sitting down with a piece of paper and a pencil and saying, okay, I'm gonna figure out this format. Like, everything has a format, right? So I'm gonna figure out how they format anime to go a certain way and do a certain thing. And I'm trying to tell you, I couldn't figure it out. I couldn't. I've been writing for years and I couldn't figure it out. And so it really does come down to just the raw ability to tell a good story and to write against expectation. Like, one of the most recent anime that threw me off the most would have to be Chainsaw Man.
Yeah.
Chainsaw Man? Yeah. Yeah, and I don't want to give any spoilers, but there's a scene on the subway and you just didn't see that coming. And then from there, I was just like, I don't even know what's happening. Just take me on this ride, you know? So there was just certain things that I always notice in certain anime that takes place. And I just wanted to make sure that this didn't just read like a comic, it read more like an anime. It just looked like a comic. So yeah, I think that people, you know, then when they read it, they'll go, this feels like I'm watching like an anime series more than I'm reading a comic book. And if they do, then I succeeded, you know?
Yeah. Well, I mean, that may be an avenue for the story in the future. I mean, you mentioned movie, but no, I mean, with the way things are going and picking up American projects for anime, that may be a knock that you get.
I would love
Pepper Piper as an anime.
I would love that.
So with being said, do you have, and I have to ask, do you prefer to read the story or watch it?
So watch it and subtitle. Always subtitle. Yeah, always subs. I can't do Can't do dubs. I know I might hear her for that, but I can't do dubs. Always subs. Yeah.
Okay. What would you say maybe your favorite anime?
Till this day, Yu Yu Hakusho. Bite me.
Yeah, that's a good one. I mean, I think I said it before in a previous episode. I'm overdue for a rewatch of Yu Yu Hakusho.
Yeah.
And it's one that it stands the test of time. I mean, even watching it now, some of the comedy may be a little outdated, but I feel like the action and the story itself, I mean, the Dark Tournament arc is the tournament arc that pretty much everybody
copied off of.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the mother. I call it the mother of all anime. I just feel like it just set the tone for everything, man.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
What about Yu Yu Hakusho attracted you?
I would say the main character. It was the first time that, I mean, I've seen people play the rowdy team before, but he was so cool about it, you know, and he was just so real about it. Like, he would get in situations and he would be so quick to even admit if he was over his head, you know, but he was still like, you know what, I'm like, I'll tell you, one of my fan, I actually have this blown up in my house. It's beautiful. But it's the scene inside the cave when he is on his last test, and there's this orb inside of him that was given to him, and he has to either allow this energy to settle in order for him to become as powerful as he needs to be. And I believe it was given to him by Genkai. And so he's in this scene, he's hurting, he's doubled over, and this creature that's with him is about to get a boulder slammed on him, and it's just this scene where he says, "Screw this task, I'm getting us out of here." It is probably one of the coolest scenes in anime. That if you ever just Google it, just Google "screw this task, I'm getting us out of here," and you'll see the scene. And you know, he obviously overcomes the orb and goes and like kicks this boulder that's 5 times bigger than him away. But it was just the way he was just so real about everything that I loved about him as a character. Yeah.
That's dope for sure. I remember that scene, and yeah, that was I believe that part of the story is what really drew me in as a fan. I liked the story before, you know, everything leading up it with you know, the demons and everything, but him going through that training to where it's like, you think you're strong, but compared to these other beings, these other demons, you are not. And in order to do that, you're gonna have to go through something that's gonna feel like death.
Yeah, you felt that pain he went through. I mean, they were like, you know what, we're just going to put 2 episodes aside for this. And I was just like, is this going to ever end? And it didn't. It was like 2 deep episodes of him just being crude. So,
and it just, you know, like it took forever. It was
I was like,
than 2 episodes.
Yeah, I was ready to give the orb up at that point. I was like, just give it up, man. Ain't worth it. Let everybody die.
What would you have to say for anybody who aspires to be a storyteller?
I would say, it's a good question. Study as much about storytelling as you possibly can, because in order to break the rules, you need to know them first. The second thing I would tell you is something I learned from Stan Lee, and that's to never listen to what someone tells you is a bad story. So if you are writing a story about a frog that grows up and becomes a superhero, to just write it and just write the hell out of it. But never let someone tell you that you have a bad story. I don't believe in bad stories. I just believe that there's stories that haven't been edited.
I feel like there's an audience for everything. Everybody might not like that frog story, but you will find an audience that will enjoy it and will
absolutely
grow.
Yeah. I've seen some pretty weird anime, so.
Yeah, definitely. If you had to go back and rewrite, if one story's ending, what would it be? If you
probably if one story's ending, I would probably Lost, the TV series. That ending was terrible.
Yeah.
That was. I think somebody like lost a bet when it came to that ending. But I would rewrite that.
Yeah, I did a little research on them because I was like, how did this story, which was such a great story, end up here? And so I I did some research, and during that time there was a writer strike, and so
That explains it. All right.
yeah, and
That
I was
explains
like,
it.
this explains like almost that entire final season.
It was so bad. Yeah, it was so bad. It was so bad.
Yeah.
But yeah, that would be, I would have to rewrite that. And the thing is that they got away with playing with you for so long,
Mhm.
and then they almost had you sold on aliens, and then they did that, and I was like, I hate you guys. I hate you. So I would write that.
I think that's one definitely, and another one that was a victim of that time was Heroes, and it was like these were great stories that the ending, I'm not gonna say it ruined it, but
Yeah,
the ending could have been.
it left a bad taste in your mouth.
Yeah. Can you plug your socials one more time for us so people can know where to find you and know where to tune in to get news on Pepper Piper Monster Hunter?
Absolutely. So this one we try to make easy for you guys. If you go to usually any social site, so on Instagram it's Pepper Piper Monster Hunter, on Facebook it's Pepper Piper Monster Hunter, TikTok Pepper Piper Monster Hunter. That's if you really want to follow Pepper. We're really going to try to give her own social media, so it would be as her. And I believe she's also on X as Pepper the Piper, or Pep the Piper. Yeah, Pep the Piper. As for Next Step Comics, if you guys want to keep up with information there, you would go to Next Step Comics, and that's literally on all social media sites. So X, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Reddit, all of them are on Next Step Comics. And me personally, if you want to see what's going on in my very extremely private life, you can follow me at Vashmere Valentine, and that's also on all social media websites as well.
Go see him work out. He has pictures with his shirt on. His shirt isn't off, but the muscles are out.
So muscles are out, so that's the reason they hit that follow button.
Yeah, exactly. Cool, man. Cool. Thank you for coming on. Could you plug the Pepper Piper? Give that pitch to everybody who, if they made it this far, they need that last little bit. Can you pitch the story for them?
Absolutely. Guys, this is the story that you've been waiting for. The combination of anime and comics in a perfect marriage. The story that every cosplay female has been dying for, Pepper Piper Monster Hunter, is going to be the testament of greatness this summer. Go get it. You will not be disappointed. The artwork, the writing is everything that you have been watching, except these will be characters that you can go cosplay.
And once it's out, once there are a couple of chapters in, I definitely want to have you back to talk about it, because I feel like this is one that we're gonna have to discuss. We're gonna have to discuss what Pepper is going through.
Well, you're in the Next Step for Comic family now, so that means that you get a comic. So we already going. We gonna hook you up. We're gonna get you one. You'll get it before September 1st too, because we want you to keep it real and tell us what you think. So yeah, we appreciate that.
I'll definitely do a episode reviewing that chapter. You guys send it over to me.
But that's on us. You got it. And we gonna hook you up with a hat too.
Oh, nice. This is why you gotta support Pepper Piper Monster Hunter. They got the cool merch.
Yeah.
They have a great story, great writer. Again, Vashmere, thank you. It was a pleasure.
Thank
We'll
you.
definitely have you on again. This is Shad from the SideQuest Hustle. You can find us at the SideQuest Hustle on all social media platforms. We have a Discord as well if you want to come in, talk about anime, manga, comics, video games, whatever you like to geek out about. The link will be down in the description. And we will see you guys next week. Thanks, Vashmere.
Later.